Ever since I was a little boy, ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a girl. At one point, I ended up dressing up in my mom's clothes and her makeup. They caught me doing it. Okay, if I am not a male, and I don't have male privilege, and I'm not fully a female, then what am I?
Hi Erin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending your time here and talking to us. I am so excited and yeah, welcome.
I am here.
Thank you, Erin, for taking the time to record this episode with us. We truly appreciate it. We've never met in person. We are very far from each other in the world. You're on the west coast of the US. We're in Europe at the moment. But we connected through LinkedIn last week, basically because a few weeks ago you shared a piece of your story on LinkedIn through a post, and this post just went viral, basically. And I've seen it like many people did, and as I'm sure many people did as well, I reached out to you to see if you would be willing to share a little piece of your story with us, and I'm very grateful that you accepted and that you came on the show today with us.
Of course, it's very flattering. It appealed to my male pride, which is going away. So limited time opportunity.
So if we talk about that post, do you want to share with us what you shared and kind of talk about what the post was so that the audience can get to know what this episode is going to be about?
Yes, I was focused on finding a new job at the time, so I reached out to several of my trans sisters on LinkedIn, and I asked for advice. And one of the pieces that really stuck with me is like you should, if you can, interview in your preferred gender. Because then, like when you're on video or in person, you can see people's body language, eye movements, resonance in their voice, and you can tell. There's actually an interesting body of psychology called micro-expressions, which are little flashes of emotion that briefly cross the face. So like disgust or anger or these little magic flashes, and so you can see that. So you maybe not consciously aware of that, but like in a conversation, you can certainly feel that like somatically in your body, because sometimes the reaction we get as trans people is that the other person wants to kill us, and that's a horrible kind of feeling of like safety, and that was why that advice was given to me. It was so radical, and I didn't want to come out, and I was pretty much pressured into it, but. That's kind of what I was facing at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it does, yeah. And so what was your reaction when, I don't know, you post this post on LinkedIn and a few hours or a few days later, you wake up and you have like 1 million views and, I don't know, thousands of comments. That must have been pretty, what's going on here?
Yeah, It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was loving, caring, compassionate. It was such a mix of things. Like me, I guess. Some of the comments are ultra positive and some are ultra negative. There's really nothing in the middle. It's black and white. And yeah, I just what happened was I published around 8 o'clock on the 21st, and that's late in the day for LinkedIn. Not a lot of people are online. So it didn't really catch fire until the next morning. And I didn't have, I don't even think I had the LinkedIn app installed on my phone. So at first I had no idea what was going on. And then I log in and it was like over 1 million views. And I'm like, what? I was baffled. I was like, I mean, look, I'm in marketing, and the before and after is a classic advertising technique, right? We would use that all the time in DRTV to sell, artificial turf or whatever, right? That before and after. So yes, I was intentional about the graphic, and I was intentional about tagging people in it, but I had no idea that it would be relevant to so many people. It just blew me away.
What were you expecting a reaction to be? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that do go viral and they have no idea, like they really don't expect it at all. Were you expecting just like a couple of people to comment, a message, or whatever? Was that kind of your expectations to begin with?
Well, I remember talking, I think I remember texting one of my friends and saying something like, hey, I got, 500 Facebook friends, I've got this many Instagram friends, but I have 14,000 connections on LinkedIn. Because that's part of my background. I worked in account management. I worked in B2B sales, selling digital advertising. So I, I wouldn't say I'm a LinkedIn expert, but I'm pretty damn good at it. I know all the softwares. I know how to search. I know everything about it. I know it at least as well as I know Google, and I'm pretty good at that too. But yeah, I mean, I thought it would make an impact, but I had no idea that it would reach 1.5 million people. It's crazy.
It's a massive scale, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought it would make an impact. I knew that, because you have to understand. I was talking to my emotional expert, Busy Gold, about this yesterday, and she was like, "Hey, Erin, you're ultra mask." Well, I'm paraphrasing, but she said you're ultra mask and ultra femme. Most people are kind of in between, or they're right in the middle. They're non-binary. They lean femme, they lean mask, and they're going one way or the other. You are like all the way on this side of the spectrum as a male, and then all the way on this side of the spectrum as a female. You're unusual. So that's kind of I think I'm not like a lot of I look at my trans sisters and I look at their social media and I look at them and I look at their bodies and it's like I'm very different. I'm black and white. I'm 6'2". I'm 330 pounds. I'm early in my transition. I am very, very, very atypical of the trans tribe. Say.
Interesting. I see. Yeah. So I would like to dive into your backstory in a way, just for us and for the audience to understand a little bit about that. So. Can you take us maybe, I guess, when you first started to question your gender identity? I guess I think would be a good place to start.
Yeah, this is going to be. I'll try to do this without crying. When ever since I was a little boy, ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a girl. I was interested in girl things. I was interested in coordinating colors and matchy and gossiping and having parties, and sleepovers. I mean, my parents obviously didn't let me do any sleepovers, but I was interested in all those kind of feminine things. But my parents were very ultra religious, fundamentalist Christian, and so there was no gender exploration allowed. I've had many friends who've showed me pictures of them dressed as a girl for Halloween. And I never got to do that. I was a dinosaur, or my mom was so. It did not allow any sort of explanation or exploration. Let's just say, right? It was very rigid, very you're on a train, you're going somewhere. And then around age 12, so there was some other events that happened. Around that time I was molested. My dad went into the hospital for a bipolar episode, and so he was pretty much like a vegetable for a year, just not available emotionally, mentally, or in any capacity during this kind of critical. Puberty is maybe one of the most significant events of our lives. And he was not there during that time. I'm trying to get over that, but my point is I didn't have a dad at that time, right? So I had no one to talk to about, hey, Dad, these changes are happening in my body. I don't understand them. They make me feel weird. I couldn't talk to my mom. Because my mom didn't want to talk about sex. Sex was a forbidden topic. You could not discuss sex. You could not just discuss gender. And then so I felt extremely uncomfortable talking to my mom about anything. And then to kind of compound it, I had this fascination with women's fashion. So I would get underwear magazines, or I would try to get my hands on a Cosmo, and I would look at the pictures, and I just was really attracted to that. And then so at one point I ended up dressing up in my mom's clothes and her makeup, and they this is hard. They caught me doing it, not like red-handed, but they figured out what was going on, and then they put me into therapy, right? But not the kind of therapy that's like interested in your well-being. It was like an interrogation, you know. It was like, why are you dressing in women's clothes? What makes you want to do that? Did some pervert force you to do that? You know, just hard-edged questions like that, and eventually it was kind of the line of questioning was kind of like, well, what do we need to do to get you to stop doing this? You know, because my mother just thought it was the most disgusting thing. Like, you could just see the disgust on her face. And I can still picture it. And she used this therapy to, I felt like, to intimidate me. And so I thought, and we talked about it. I later spoke to her about it, and I actually expressed, I don't remember when, but I expressed that. I said, look, okay, I understand you feel violated, that I violated you. Later, you know, I had friends that said, oh, hey, my mom put her clothes and makeup on me, basically, right? And you know, but here I was made to feel, like abandoned. I was made to feel afraid. I was made to feel atypical. You know, like the black sheep is that's one I use a lot. Yeah, way bad. And then it was what was communicated. This is the kicker. What was communicated is that what I had done was so wrong that God hated me. And I was an abomination unto the Lord. And so not only was she disgusted, but she spoke for God. And God was disgusted. And when I asked, and I said, well, I understand you feel violated. I promise I'll never do that again, because clearly you're going to kill me if I do. So, okay, I give up. You're the boss. You can. I'm the submissive. You're the dominant. And you know I said, okay. And can I have my own clothes? You know, can I purchase and wear my own clothes? And I was told that if I wanted to pursue that, then I would be ejected from the family. I would be, you know, not excommunicated or disbarred, but ejected. How about that? I would be ejected, shadow banned from the family, and I would be homeless and die. Like my mom's brother, Hugh, who was a paranoid schizophrenic, that died under extremely mysterious circumstances when he was very young in a rehab home. Whew.
Wow. I mean, thank you for sharing first, and thank you for your openness and vulnerability to share your very personal story. And I mean, family is always complicated. Puberty, like you said, is always a complex period in our life, because that's, I feel, when we build our personality, character, when we kind of become who we are going to become as an adult.
Yeah.
And exploration, like you mentioned, is usually a critical part during this time. It's when you figure out what you like, who you like, what you want to do, and etc. And then having that taken away from you, I mean, I can't even imagine the impact that it had, but I can understand the frustration that it must have been for you. And to keep going about this exploration, because you were not able to do this exploration in your puberty when you should have been doing it. Were you able to find that later in your life and to explore and understand maybe, I don't know, who you were and connect with who you wanted to be, I guess? Did you manage to have that later?
Yes. This is the center of the bullseye. The key word is repressed. I had to repress. When I was 12, I knew that I wanted to be a woman. I had dreams of getting tits, of this bottom surgery. When I learned that you could do that, I knew that even though I wouldn't be like a biological woman, that's what I wanted. It was preferable. But I had to make a deal with the devil. This desire that I had, clearly it was going to get me killed. So one way or the other. So what I did is it was repressed by my parents because they said, this is not okay. And so I then suppressed it. I put it in a little box in the back of my head, and I buried it, and I promised myself that I wouldn't open it until I was 18 and I could get away from my parents because I felt like they were trying to kill me. And that's what I did. I stuffed it. Then I went through all the therapy, and then I developed...
Can I interrupt you there? I'm
yeah.
sorry. But, it's very interesting what you said that I understand that putting those thoughts in a box, putting it away, like burying it, that it's not going to happen. But I feel like most of the time when people do that with any desire, anything, usually there is the intention of this box is away, is buried, and I'm never going to touch it again. It's interesting that you've done that knowing that when you would be 18, you would get back to this box and carry on this journey again. That is very interesting that you had this thought from there, rather than saying like, this is bad. I've been told I'm not supposed to be this way, so I'm just going to give up on now. Like I find it very interesting that you had the intention of this is for now, but I'm going to go back to it.
Connecting back to how I felt then, it was all consuming. Like I had dreams of being kidnapped and turned into a woman. I looked at RuPaul, I looked at androgynous like David Bowie, Dennis Rodman's cross-dressing. I just was fascinated by that. And I just had to carte blanche put it all in the box. I like what you said about some people never open it. That's kind of terrifying. No, I was hiding it from my mom. If my mom detected even one hint of this, I was dead. It was kind of like a time capsule. I was always fascinated by those as a kid, the time capsules. It's like, what in this time capsule will be relevant in 20 years, But yeah, anyway, back to the story. So that was a good rabbit hole. So back to the core story. So after the therapy, I developed suicidal depression. But I didn't get any more therapy, because the goal of the therapy was to get me to stop being trans. So I didn't get any actual therapy for being depressed. I was put on a antidepressant for a little while, so I was medicated. I saw a psychiatrist. It's all very boring. And then later in when I think I was like 15 or 16, my dad, he had an orthopedic. He was an orthopedic surgeon. He had a medical practice in Bishop, California. Was where I grew up. It was a very small town in the high Sierras off 395. And so his practice folded due to a lot of different reasons I can't get into. But anyway, we moved to Davis. And so here we are. We go from this ultra-conservative, very small Christian town to this huge town that's extremely gay-friendly, extremely LGBTQ-friendly, extremely socialist. They call it the People's Republic of Davis. and yet, did I get any LGBT exposure? Did I get exposed to gay pride? Did we go to any events? Did we have any friends that were gay? Not openly. And then I just I developed all these issues, So my mom, this is painful, but my mom, since that time, since when I realized that moment of realization, right? After that, she became this like government CIA investigator that would like go through my stuff, I would hide things in my room, like in weird places, like inside of a light switch, and she would find it. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, here's a funny story. This will show you how psycho my mom is. So one time I was just sitting on the couch in the house, and she comes out of the garage, walks into the pantry, picks up a melon, and it's a whole melon, not cut. And she smells it and says, "This melon is bad," and throws it away. And I was like, she had this like supernatural sense of smell. Like if I smoked pot, she didn't know what it was, but she could smell it even if I put like Febreze over it. Like it was living in a freaking prison, like a supermax prison. One time she made me take a lie detector test to prove that I wasn't wearing her clothes. She installed like this crazy like 3-piece army deadbolt on her closet, and she would reference it all the time, like once a week or twice a week, like, yeah, I remember what you did, and I can't stand that I can barely stand that I have to have this lock, and just all these like narcissistic attacks. And I'm like, God damn it, Mom. Like, even though I was going to die, even though I felt like I was going to die, I stopped. I repressed it. And it's like, you continue to persecute me. You persecuted me for like 6 years. It's like you're the elephant that never forgets. You're never going to forget I did this. Like, why is it so bad? And what makes you think I'm messing with your clothes? And this like oppression, this constant narcissistic attack, made it crystal clear that it was not safe to open the box. I had to get as far away as possible, like the Philippines or something, in order to open the box, because it was not safe. It was not safe. My mom thought I was a dangerous criminal and a predator. That was, and that was her opinion of me through those formative years. So then, then after that, a lot of things happened. But then after that, I started to, in little bursts, cross-dress. And then that would be like what I would call the cross-dresser period.
Was that at home, or was that when you were traveling that you would start with the cross-dressing?
Yes. So I have never dressed when I'm traveling. There's some connection to me presenting female and safety that I don't really know. Again, I'm working on this stuff with Busy Gold, but it's like, if I don't feel safe, I don't dress. And it turns out I don't feel safe a lot of the time. Like, a lot of the time I have this male pride that I'm safe, but because I'm a man, because I'm not, because, so I've never dressed when I traveled. But the travels did, so there was years where I dressed at home in my own place or wherever I was staying, if I rented a room or what have you, and I would dress up in secret, and I would take awkward pictures in the mirror and save them in my Google Drive and not show them to anybody. And I did that for many years, and I slowly began to build my confidence. But yes, I'd like to tell you about the travel impacted me in a mental and emotional, physical, and spiritual way. It's hard to explain, but yes, it accelerated the journey.
Okay.
Yeah, so take us through this new phase of your life then, because obviously you, as an adult, you didn't have the opportunity to explore and to develop your true self I would say, like when you were in your teen years, and when that's usually happening for most people. So can you tell us a little bit about how did you go into, I guess, working on becoming who you wanted to be, and also maybe healing.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Here we go. Healing your past trauma in order to also just feel safe and be okay with who you are without feeling, the sense of there is something wrong with you because you've been told that so many times, right?
Right. Well, what we're doing now is healing the trauma, being able to share my expertise, at being able to reach what I call the center of the bullseye, which is those closeted men that want to come out, but forces of evil and darkness and spirituality are holding them captive. And those are the people I'm trying to reach. The most significant thing about this viral post was all the messages I received that said, Erin, I saw your post, and I too have struggled with this my entire life, and you have inspired me to do something about it. Those messages changed my life. To have this pain, and then to be thrust so violently into the public eye, right, and to be so vulnerable to the hate of the entire world, and then to have professional men, executives even, to reach out to you and say, and to bare their soul like that. I just maybe I believe it's destiny for me to help these people. I mean, I can't think of any other reason why that would happen. This publicity did not get me a job. In fact, I was reduced. My hours of compensation have been reduced 90%. I don't have. I have a pipeline, but I have stuff in the works. But yeah, it didn't. Like, nobody reached out and said, "Hey, we want to hire you." Here's a fat consulting job. Nobody reached out. Instead, I got just all this negativity and people wanting to steal my energy and stuff like that. So I just was like, and then I was just like, well, why the fuck did this happen then? Like, what is the point of this? Are we living in some sort of simulation? And I just got that to see, like, what I would do with it. Like, what the hell, God? Like, why? Why would you do this to me? Why would you give me something that... Anyway, it's just like, why did this happen? And the only thing I can think of is that it is spiritually significant. It was meant to teach me that I need to reach these men that are trapped in the closet and need to be evacuated, essentially.
So can you explain to us how the traveling that you've been doing throughout your life helped you heal and get you where you are today?
Yes. One thing that always stood out to me, one of the positive things, my mom did many positive things. I don't want to make her out like she's some sort of monster. It's just on the issues of gender and sexuality, she's not emotionally available. But I remember her telling me as a young child that she went to Spain with her grandpa, Paul McCoy and Priscilla McCoy. And if you haven't checked out Paul McCoy, you really need to. He was this brilliant author and oil painter that created some really interesting abstract psychedelic art that I think he's really like a treasure. But one of the paintings that he did, I remember, I can see it in my mind. It was like a purple painting with like brown squiggles, and she was talking about the painting and how he had actually painted it in Spain, and he they'd been there for a couple years, or not, I don't know, a couple years, 1 year at least. And so I just remember her describing, she just had this happy expression on her face, and her body language was so relaxed, and I just remember that emotional impression of travel. So as soon as I got my life in order, I traveled. Because of what happened to me at I gotta give a little backstory. So at age 18, I got into a lot. I might as well just open this whole thing up. So at age 18, I got into a lot of trouble. I got a drug charge. It was later removed, but I ended up going into rehab. Because I got a DUI. And so this derailed, of course, my college career, and I went into rehab, which is a gnarly place, if you ask anybody, right? Like, it is not fun. You do not like it. And then I was cut off from all my friends, obviously, because they put me in Sacramento, not in Davis. I don't know why, but the rehab was in Sacramento, and then. So basically, I was raised by convicts because this particular rehab was a receiving home for Folsom Prison. And so it was like 90% ex-cons. And it was like, hey, I learned valuable things, like don't bump into someone in the chow line because they're going to try to stab you. Like stuff like that I was learning at age 18. And so I learned a lot of other things. But yeah, I worked the program. I did the 12 steps. I had sponsees. And then I got sober, and then I got out of there. But then I went through I had a series of like terrible sexually deviant roommates, and then I started my own business. I remember I dropped out of school. I funded it with a merchant cash advance. And if you don't know what that is, like Google it. It is one of the most gnarly, predatory, expensive funding options on the market. And that's how I funded the business, but I felt like I was going to, again, my whole life I felt like I'm going to die. And that time I felt like I was going to die. And at the time I was dating Amanda Jones, who's a very close personal friend of mine, now even. And we kind of collaborated or colluded in that, like, I started a digital ad agency, and she was running a television ad agency. So we were like simpatico. And then once I got through that looking glass, I was able to do all kinds of different things in the world. Like, so for example, like I'm really into call centers because my fundamental expertise is lead generation, and I learned that in the mortgage game. I was in the mortgage game in 2006 when it started exploding, and so the lead generation, it was the kind of the driving force, and then that kind of jumped into call centers because it's like, okay, you have the leads, then how do you call them? Well, you need reps calling them, and so. Then it's like, where do you get the reps? And it's like, you could pay $16, $20 an hour for, a nice young man in Nebraska with a neutral American accent. Or you could go to the Philippines and, get someone for $3 an hour that actually speaks better English but with an accent. Or you could do the same thing in Costa Rica, or should I say Costa Rica, pura vida. And then so I embarked on these different trips, business trips, to set up suppliers, to meet different vendors, coaches and consultants, attorneys, and real estate firms, and that was the business travel that I did. The majority of my travel, and this relates back to my story, was the Philippines. I was always fascinated by the Philippines for many reasons. Would you guys know much about the Philippines, or you travel a lot, right?
Yeah, we've never been, but I mean, I would like to. Yeah, seems to be like a beautiful bunch of islands, right? And
Yes. The operative word is archipelago.
yeah.
I can never say that word.
Yeah.
I was going to try and help you out, but I was like, I know I can't say that word, so.
Oh yes, I'm just a parakeet. Archipelago. So yes, they have all these islands. I think like 8,000 islands. And just to show you how mental it is, so my favorite place in the Philippines is Palawan, or sorry, El Nido, and that is on the north tip of the island of Palawan. The capital city is Puerto Princesa. It's about a $90 flight from Manila to there, and they call it the final frontier because there's literally like an area at the tip of the island where there are all these like shards of islands. So it's like island archipelago inside an island archipelago. Oh. And there's nobody here. You can ride a motorcycle for hours and not see anybody, you know. I remember one time I had quit smoking, and I went there. I only went there one time. I remember I quit smoking and I relapsed because I went to this beach, and it was the most beautiful beach I'd ever seen in my life. And there was this goddamn little snack shop there selling cigarettes, and I was like, God damn it! And like, how did Philip Morris get all the way over here? So quitting smoking is something that's been really hard for me my whole life, you know. It's almost like I had a bunch of trauma that predisposed me to cigarettes. Weird. So and then Puerto Princesa, I had lobster, the best lobster of my life. It was like this big, and it was like $10, and it's just the unspoiled jungle. But another experience I had. This is a good one. So this was in I think it was in Cebu. So. In the Philippines, they have these. It's not as nice as Costa Rica. I feel like Costa Rica is a little bit nicer. The Philippines is more. It's kind of. It's a little rough, right? Like it's tropical, but it's not as pretty as as Costa Rica. That's what my friend thinks. So this was in Cebu, which is another major metro. Manila is the big metro. It's where all pollution is, where all people are. Where the international airport is. But then if you get to Cebu, Cebu is a lot nicer. It's cleaner, less pollution. People are like at different speed. The food is different. And then, so we were on this actually the cruise might have been in Puerto Princesa. I forget where. But anyway, so they have this so we bought the tickets. I bought the tickets to this thing. I was traveling alone, right? I don't know if I could travel alone as a female. I think I might be a little scared. I might need a man to protect me. So if you're out there, man, take me traveling. So we go to this lagoon. It's a lagoon. And they have these like mandrakes, which are like these tree bushes, things that grow into the water. And so what we did is we took a cruise into this lagoon at night to see fireflies. So we're literally, and for some reason, some weird coincidence, there's this woman appears, and she's kind of masked, and we sit down next to each other, and the Filipinos, like, they forced us to sit together. Like, they're like, you cannot, we didn't want to sit together, they like, forced us to sit together. They're like, no, you are here. You're meant to be together, basically, right? And it's funny, they kept addressing her as ma'am, and me as sir. So they kept saying, ma'am, sir. Ma'am, sir? They would address us as a group by calling it ma'am, sir. Ma'am, sir, please sit down. You know, this little teeny little Filipino accent, little tiny Filipino, like bossing us around. And so we didn't like hold hands or anything, although I thought about it. I'm like, man, should I? And I was like, this is so weird, because so surreal, because these fucking fireflies, like these big ass lightning bugs, are flying all around and they're exploding like in fireworks, and it's like, and I just was like, I just went somewhere else. I think I disassociated, or I had an out of body experience or something, because it was just so crazy. The whole thing was so surreal, and it lasted like an hour or two, and they fed us, and then they dropped us off. Wow. Let me tell another story. So about my travel. So I think like the first or second time, I'm feeling my male pride, because when you go to the Philippines and you're 330 pounds, they look at you like a god. Like if you're fat, I mean, a lot of them are dying of hunger, right? So it's like if you're fat, they're like, wow, this is a king. This is a rich person because we are starving and they don't need to eat. They could survive for like a year. And so I got catcalled, right? Like I would literally get catcalled in the Philippines.
Wow.
And I speak a little Tagalog. I speak probably like 30 or 40 words. But they all of them, speak English. Anyway, so I knew that I was a desirable commodity, right? And I was thinking, like, man, I'm gonna get a Filipino wife, like some of my male pride. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the big American with the, Filipino wife. And that was what I was after, right? So when I went over there, I got on Tinder. So Tinder lets you set the pin, and this is key, right? Because on Tinder you got to talk to get it into a date, and if you're traveling, you're only gonna have like a 2 or 3 week window. So if you get on Tinder when you land, you done fucked up because you're never gonna meet those people. They're never, right? They'll be ready to meet in a month, and you're already gonna be gone. So what I did is I set the pin, and about 3 weeks before, I started blowing people up on what was it? Filipino Cupid was another one that I used. So Tinder, Filipino Cupid. That was before Grindr. Before I knew about Grindr, I'd be blown away to see how Grindr works in the Philippines. To be quite honest with you, at the time, I thought I was straight, right? And so I'm trying to meet Filipino women and trans, and I got like flooded. I got like I think close to 100 messages in there, and yeah, and these women, like they wanted to meet, they were motivated. I went through a bunch of them, and so it was a really kind of interesting experience, sexually. So in another on that trip though. So here this is really funny. So the people like this. So I staying my assistant booked me this. Hotel. I think it's called the Armada Hotel. It's in Makati, which is like the Las Vegas of Manila. I'm staying at this hotel, the Armada Hotel in Makati, and it has a rooftop bar. And I'm so stoked. I'm like, oh, I've never been to a hotel with a rooftop bar. Like, this is so awesome. So I get up there, and I'm having a drink and a smoke, and I, out of the corner of my eye, what do I notice but another rooftop bar 10 stories higher than me? So I'm like, God damn it! So I leave, finish my drink, and leave. I go up there, and then I'm like trying to take a selfie, and I don't like how I look in the selfie. I didn't realize it was because I look like a man, but maybe if I'd had some nails and some hair, I could have did like a Marilyn Monroe's pose in front of the city, the cityscape at night. But they got up there. And then enjoying a drink and a smoke, and what do I see out of the corner of my eye?
And a bigger one.
Another rooftop bar. God damn it! So I leave and then go up there. And this place is called. And if you're ever in the Philippines, you gotta check this place out. It's called The Antidote. That is where I took my first transgender girlfriend. Okay, so I met this girl on Tinder during that Tinder period. I met this girl on Tinder and. I was very attracted to her. She was a good communicator. She was intelligent. I thought she was attractive. She hadn't had the breast augmentation, but that didn't bother me. And I was like, wow, this person is compatible with me, and they're also a valuable business opportunity, right? And before this time, I had done a lot of research on the Philippines, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, anyway, we started dating, but we had sex a few times, but I remember when we were having sex, it was like she was very out of touch with her body, like she didn't like to be touched in certain areas, and she just was very uncomfortable and not emotionally, it was very difficult for me to work with. I was like, I can't, I don't know what's going on here. Like I'll try, but. And then she ended up, and this is really interesting. I think a fundamental building block for my story is she ended up, and then we had some kind of weird conversations on Facebook where I I outed myself and said, "Hey, I'm trans. I'm closeted. Like, look, here's my makeup, you know." And I opened up to her. And I hadn't done that in person. I did it online, and then we had some words, and I said some things I regret, and then she, cut me off, and then I later saw that she detransitioned,
Okay.
which is really unusual, but happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I've never heard about that before.
Really?
No.
Yeah, so if you know transitioning, detransitioning is just the reverse. It's when someone says, "Oh, okay, I was confused. I had some underlying trauma. I had, circumstances, or I had something that made me regret this decision, and now I want to undo everything. I want to stop taking hormones. I want the surgeries reversed, and I'm going to dress as this gender, and I no longer identify as that gender." That happens. Some of the, if you talk to some of the conspiracy theorists, they think that that's like conversion therapy, because that was actually a thing for many years. If you were gay or trans, the conversion therapy is the Christians or whoever would get in your mind and convince you that you are making a mistake and you need to go back to the way you were, right? I mean, that is how we handled LGBTQ people as a society for a long time. And so I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, sometimes I think like, well, is somebody going to show up at my door and, turn me back into a man? I wish they would, because then I would be sure that, you know what I mean? It's like, if I was forced to do that, I don't know. It's just kind of, it's kind of interesting. The core of my brand is my platform is I want justice for the victims of sexual abuse, and this brings me to the final part of the Philippines. The part that really hurt me was when I was talking to these trans. I was like, it was weird. Trans are so freely sexual, right? They just, we are very free. We're givers when it comes to that, right? And I was like, hey, slow down. I'm more interested in your story. Like how did you get here? What happened? And what I heard shocked me to my core. What I learned is that if you are trans in the Philippines, they will find out at an early age, and then you will be taken into the bushes at age 5 or 6 and taught how to be a prostitute, and that becomes your like identity, and that becomes your role in that society. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody, and it doesn't happen as much to the working or the rich families, right? Because but if you're trans and born into poverty, you're guaranteed to become a non-consensual sex slave, pretty much. And then once I learned this, like. My last girlfriend in the Philippines, it was a girl named James. James was pretty wild, and it was a good time. But like I could tell that she had trauma, but she wouldn't talk about it. She wouldn't answer any questions about her family. She wouldn't answer any questions about her childhood. She was very closed off to big chunks of her life. And I realized that she was repressing trauma, and what I can only conclude is that many trans in the Philippines have that same like experience, but are hiding it behind a polite, facade, a polite, warm facade. But really inside they're screaming and dying. And after that, I just, it really. Before that, I was a man I was called trans-oriented, right? That's what they call it. Trans-oriented. It's when you're a straight male that's into trans girls like me. And hey, and so, but with this, it's that's what I thought I was, right? I thought I liked trans girls, and I wanted a trans girlfriend, wanted a trans wife. But then after seeing these like horrible experiences that they go through, and really thinking about it. And then after I came out and being more connected with my peers and other people, after hearing their stories, after hearing how they've been oppressed, that they've been hurt, and how that mixes into like their gender and sexuality. I don't think I'm trans-oriented anymore, whether I'm presenting male or female, because it's just like we have suffered so much. We are like the most persecuted people in the world. Like, show me another group that's been persecuted like trans people. Show me one. And I say this to bring awareness. If you're out there and you have trans friends, like support them. They need your support. They have been through, unless they're very fortunate to be at the top of the food chain or in hiding, then they have suffered, and they need help. So don't sexualize us, please. Like, treat us like human beings. Don't force us to explain why we want to be a woman, even though we'll never be a biological woman. Save your commentary about how this is a consternation under the Lord and an abomination, and that any doctor doing the surgery should be disbarred. Save your unwanted sexual advances. Like, I don't want messages telling me what nails to wear. If you want to pay for them, sure, but no, I that's just weird. Okay, it's like, hey, we are not a this is not a circus, and we are not a sidecar show, and you are not P.T. Barnum. Like, I don't know what you think this is, but it's not. So that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think it is. I was reading recently and sharing with a friend about doing some research about mental health, and I've read that I think young adults identifying as trans, like, or in a statistic, like the most prone to commit suicide and stuff like that. The numbers are through the roof, unfortunately, in this community, like you said. And so yeah, like, sharing messages and stories like you do, hopefully can help other people that right now feel lonely, isolated, because they don't have anyone to open up to, right? That if that can help one person, I mean, that's all we can wish for, to be totally honest. So yeah.
If you're out there and you're contemplating suicide, contact me. I'll talk to you. I will help you. I'll make time for you. When I came out, I received several messages from men that I'm concerned about and remain to be concerned about. They are going through spiritual warfare on their identity. They are trying to figure out who they are. They are trying to speak their truth, but spiritual darkness is surrounding them. And I'm trying to help them. I want to show you something. So I have a tattoo, and it's hard to read because it's in the mirror, but it reads, "Don't kill yourself." And I got this tattoo after I came out as trans. I was on April Fool's Day, and because I need a daily reminder to live and not die. And even though people thought it was offensive and they wanted it covered up, I am raising suicide awareness. It's not the core of my thing. I can't fully support it, but it is part of the puzzle. My entire life is a suicide attempt. I have been hospitalized 5 times, and one of them was, or 2 of them were involuntary. I sometimes get manic, and so when I'm manic, I have pressured speech and delusions and hostile, aggressive behavior. I crash cars. I have criminal theories about my parents. I really get going. But the mental health is I have never, I never was. So I'll talk about this a little bit. So I never was suicidal until until I had some business stuff happen. I don't want to get into it. Maybe I'll get into it in another podcast. But I had some business stuff happen, and then I was working for a gentleman at the time who let's just say we didn't relate very well. And I had a lot of experiences of anxiety and terror interacting with him. And that mixed with the business issues, and it made me feel suicidal. And that was the first time ever that's ever happened. But when I had these manic episodes, they keep getting like more intense and more intense, doing crazier stuff and having crazier, it's just like getting, it escalates. And
Yeah.
And it's like, I was reflecting all this, and I'm like, wow, like I have been trying to kill myself my whole life, basically. And I haven't realized it. Now, and we look at these suicide attempts, and we call them manic episodes, but what are they really? They're really suicide attempts. Really, I'm trying to kill myself. And because I don't want to live, because I'm trapped in the body of a fucking man. And everybody in my life has suppressed me and mistreated me because of that. And that's why I want to die. And that's why I felt like I wanted to die. And that's why I was pressured to come out, because I didn't want to die. And this whole thing has always been a matter of life and death. And I don't know why it's so spiritually significant. And I don't know who needs to hear this. But if you are wrestling with this, I want you to know that there is no pain greater than not being yourself.
That's a powerful message. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Thank you. One of something that you said about the Philippine that happened, when you shared about being on a rooftop and taking a selfie of yourself, and not liking the picture because of maybe the way you look and stuff like that. I wonder if this is something that's been like a common thread in your life, looking yourself in a mirror and seeing yourself in picture and not liking what you would see. If it's something that was like always there, and how you were dealing with it.
Affirmative, yes. It's very perceptive and insightful and emotionally relational of you. Very good. Yes, I have always hated my reflection. Ever since I can remember. Anytime I've been in front of a photographer, it just felt weird, like I was a doll being arranged. It felt like an object. I felt like an actor. Here, wear this shirt because mommy likes it. Cross your legs like this because daddy likes it. And sit over here by this babbling brook because we like the symbolism. And we'll frame it, nice cherry wood frame. And then my dad, he took all these pictures and he put them in his office, and he just kept them there for decades. Like, he never updated the picture. Like, I grew, became a teenager, an adult, took more pictures, but he never changed the pictures. So what I'd like to say about that is, today, so I will say this: a narcissist is in love with the reflection of himself or herself. Right? The Greek god Narcissus peered into the pool of oblivion, and in it he saw his reflection, and he fell in love. And so a narcissist is in love with his reflection. How do you appear to them? Everything is about narcissistic supply. Did you act in a way that inflated the narcissist's ego? Good dog. Treat. Did you act in a way that defamed him or damaged his reputation? Narcissistic attack, you bad dog. And, so what I would say is, yes, I admit that I am in love with myself, but not the false self, the true self.
My other and last question really about your story was, after all those years of being repressed, then finding the strength to explore a little bit through different way, trauma, healing, etc. What was the catalyst, or if it's one moment or something that was like, I'm ready to be my true self and to tell the world that I am. Like, was it like a specific event, or it was like a process, like a long journey? What I wonder, like, how did that? How did you come up to that?
Right. So there wasn't any. So there's a couple of milestones, right? One is the coming out, and then one is like when I knew I was trans. Or I describe it as like, the way I describe it is, I put everything in this box. But then what happened as a result of that is kind of like I was taken hostage in my mind. It was almost like I was a secret agent triggered by a keyword that activated, and then there was like another part of my mind that's trying to control it. So I distinctly feel that there are two dual opposing parts of my mind. And if you look at IFS, Integrated Family Systems, it's a therapeutic modality. It states that we have all these different voices or parts, and usually they represent like mom and dad. And I guess that's all I had is those parts, and that's why this is so hard. Is my brain is organized like a family in terms of like the different personality themes, and the combination and the mechanism is totally different on hormones as a woman and as a man. But to your point, and that's just a sidebar, but to a point, it's like, when did my cousin came out a long time ago, and they like started and then stopped, and I don't know where they're at. But that kind of gave me, and then Caitlyn Jenner, and then all these people started kind of coming out like bang, 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 and I was like, and I remember how I got sucked into it was Reddit. I was on Reddit. I was on r/_egg IRL, which is like they call it the egg crack moment. There it is. So yes, God, I just got to push this out. So I was watching some porn, and it was porn I'd never watched before. It was like gender affirming porn. It was like, you are a woman, and you are gonna have sex like a woman, and then it was like, and then it literally was like, breaking the fourth wall and like connecting with my brain. It was like, your egg cracked. And the egg crack moment is the moment where you like a baby trans, and you that's the egg. And so by egg cracked, I don't know the exact date. Maybe I've written down in my old journals, but like I had that moment I think at night, and I watched that, and I was like, oh, that was the exact moment. But then around that, but it took a while because this stuff was so repressed. It took a while for me to pull that out into and start the incredibly difficult, annoying, and laborious process of connecting with all your colleagues and friends and explaining to them and spending 30 minutes to answer their fucking questions about being trans. But I started with my close family and friends, and the reaction was mostly positive. It was mostly a positive reaction, and that gave me courage. Early in that journey, my presentation was terribly fucked up. Like, I didn't have good wigs, I didn't have clothes, I didn't have the understanding of makeup very well. I just was so bad at being a woman when society expects women to be perfect. It's like I was talking to my good friend August on LinkedIn about privilege and safety, and he's like, yeah, when I was a woman and I didn't wear makeup, everybody would ask me, am I sick? Now I get it. Now, and he's like, we were talking about getting catcalled. I'm like, yeah, I got catcalled once. Oh, great, fun, awesome. And then next time it's, unwanted negative attention. So it's like, hey, welcome to being a woman. People are going to steal from you, make you a sex object. They're going to belittle you. They're going to disrespect you. They're going to underpay you. They're going to make you feel unsafe. And it's like, do I really want to do this? And it's like, okay, I really want to lose my male privilege? And the answer is yes. You know, I'm fully committed.
Do you know, it's so interesting what you were saying, because like there's things that I talk about with Jeremy in terms of like being catcalled. Like we're here in Albania and we walk around and I'm stared by every man in the street and it's so weird. Like they're not even pretending to not look. Or like you said about feeling safe, or like there's certain times where I'm like, okay, we need to cross the road, and Jeremy's like, why? And I'm like, because there's a group of men. He's like, it's just men. But like there's certain things that men don't realise that women go through. So it must be so interesting for you, having been like a man for most of your life and now transitioned into being a woman and experiencing both sides of that, but also being a trans woman. I know it's like a different level, but it's interesting seeing both sides of that, because I think oftentimes men are oblivious to what happens. Like it's so interesting.
Right. And yeah, as a man, I couldn't tell you how many times I was emotionally disconnected from people that I was working with or talking to. Right, like homeless people. That's a good one, right? So like always with homeless people, I just be like, hey, they ask me for change. I'm like, I don't have any change. Fuck off, And then like I had an interaction where I was presenting female, and there was a homeless man. And he called me a slur, and I said, I was like, you too, buddy. Like I communicated with him. Like I heard what he said, and I reciprocated a message, but like in a positive, like affirming way. I never did that as a man. I could give two fucks less about, my employees in my office bitching about, oh, I don't have childcare, I'm sick, and I'm like, whatever. I'm like this asshole boss. Whoosh, back to work, peon. And now it's like when I'm working with people, I'm like soft. I'm like, I'm vulnerable. Help me. I'll help you. Let's work together. It's like I'm completely fucking different. Like night and day different. And yes, I think it's a good, and I'd like to speak more to that, right? Because like I'd like to, again, live and speak your truth, right? And that knows, truth knows no gender, it knows no sexuality, no age, no race, no occupation, no creed. These things are irrelevant. They are static. It's like, who are you? Who are you? You take... I have had to go through the valley of the shadow of death psychologically and think like, okay, if I am not a male, and I don't have male privilege, and I'm not fully a female, then what am I? And it's like, and if I go back, what am I then? And if I go forward, what am I then? And when I talk to my supporters, like Busy Gold and Layla Minky, and they give me advice, it's like, is this me, or is this the universe pushing me? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense anymore. I know it's spiritual in some way, and it's about love, and it's in my heart.
Love that. I have one last question. Feel free to not answer if it's too much. But you said that when you came out, you had a really good reception from your friends and family. What has your parents' reaction been like? Have they accepted the new you? I don't know. If you don't want to answer, that's completely fine. I'm just curious as to, because obviously kind of...
No, it's raw. It's raw, but this is like healing. Are you guys therapists? Like, am I going to get a bill? Am I going to get a bill for this? Oh my god. So let's start with mom and dad. So mom, when she found out I was transgender, was so generous as to call CPS on me multiple times. She has called CPS on me at least 3 times, and the cops twice, and she's made disparaging and defamatory statements about me to my daughter, and I have completely cut that bitch out of my life. She's gone. My dad is emotionally distant. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know what his demons are. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. But whatever it is that he's doing, that which shall not be named, has been happening to me ever since I was a little kid. And I really haven't figured out that part of the box yet, but I'm working on it. The rest of my family's been supportive. My Sharon, my stepmom, has offered help. My stepsister has been supportive. She's given me feedback on my appearance. She's giving me feedback on my dating partners. She's giving me feedback on social. She's been incredibly helpful, incredibly loving and helpful. She sent me to a lesbian comedy show. You know, the No Boys Allowed, it was called. It was wonderful. And yeah, so she's been really helpful. Unfortunately, about my friends, I posted on Facebook a coming out post, and I got a lot of responses. I think like close to 80 or 90 responses, but they were all like people in business or in other circles I'd built. As far as my like kindergarten, middle school, childhood, junior high, high school friends, both in Bishop and Davis, do you know how many commented on my post in public support?
0.
Cero. That's Spanish for 0. And so that's fine. And then so it's kind of like a country song. You come out, you lose your job. Well, I didn't lose mine, but I'm still technically employed. So, but in the context of this country song, it's like you lose your job, you lose your friends, you lose your family, you lose your finances. Everything is much harder. It's much harder to find jobs that are trans affirming. And it's everything is more expensive. You have all these new bills, all these medical expenses, all these doctor's appointments, laser hair removal, new costs for wardrobe, like learning makeup, building new friends, learning how to interact with people in a way, finding other people like you or that are compatible with you is incredibly difficult. Like on Grindr, like I got on Grindr, I got a bunch of people that, let's say I got into Grindr and I found some people that are compatible one way, but not the other way that I'm looking for, and it's like trying to find a fucking needle in a haystack, And I'd love to, if anybody out there is an expert on sexuality, I would love to work with you and interview with you, because my sexuality is, and I say this without any arrogance, is so fucking complex, okay? It's like, it's insanely complex, and I have been with a lot of people, okay? I have had, like, I don't know, 40, 50 partners, and I've never met anyone that's even close to the complexity of my sexuality, right? And it's like, I know I'm starting to find other people that are wired the same way, and it's like, but like I said, it's like a needle in a haystack. I am excited about life because I have an incredible opportunity. I finally know who I am. I finally know why I tick, and I'm finally finding people that like I can tick with, and I'm going to take that to the grave. Like that I'm alive. I've been dead my whole life, and now I'm alive. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
That's like the perfect end to the episode.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Thank you, honestly, Erin, for sharing all that with us. To make like a confession, this is the first time I'm having like a conversation with a trans person.
Oh!
So
welcome!
So I've learned a lot, and it's been incredible to listen to you. And I mean, despite all the laws and complicated situation that you had to go through, I think your final statement right now, makes me smile and makes me happy, because it's nice to see, like you said before, I think despite differences between human beings, we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved, and we all want to be happy, and we all want to find joy, and it's nice that, despite a very complicated journey to get there, you eventually found that, and I'm happy for you. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that with us.
Yes. This is not, don't worry, this is not my final message. In the final message, I will tell all.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your story. I'm just blown away by your courage. You're incredible, and I wish you all the success in the world. I can't wait to follow your journey and see where you are in a year from now, 5 years from now, and yeah, just wish you all the best. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
I'm just going to say that I will, considering you mentioned that in the episode, I will link your contact, your LinkedIn profile in the description. So if people want to reach out to you for anything, like I want to encourage people to reach out to you, so I will link your information.
I would love to connect with anybody that this message resonated in for any reason. Send me a message. I'm open to love and connection.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify. We'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode, and have a wonderful week.
Bye-bye.